Welcome back to an audience of one by JannahVersity, in which we deliver spiritually uplifting content and motivation to individuals who need a reminder that they have worth and value and a gift that they need to share with the world once they recognize their true potential, and that no matter how many mistakes you've made, it's never too late to make today the day that you change your life. Throughout this conversation, we've gone from talking about the need to make a decision to change to many different tactics that you'll need to employ along the way, as well as the many pitfalls that you'll need to avoid. We've also talked about the importance of setting goals, and along with that, we've alluded to the fact that you've got to share your gifts with the world. Now, before we get to the point where we start giving back, we have to talk about the importance of taking care of yourself first. As you start to progress in your life, in all of the different areas that you're working on, there's going to come a point, or rather many points, where you're going to have the desire to go out there and make an impact. You're going to want to share your knowledge, you're going to want to share your experiences, you're going to want to contribute. On top of this, you have all of these goals that you're going to want to accomplish, and you're going to want to share your gifts with the world. Unfortunately, one of the traps that we can fall into is that we start before we're ready. Or if you are ready, that you start to put all of your energy into others and you neglect your own personal development. Now, there's a famous saying that's attributed to Abraham Lincoln where he says, "If I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 6 sharpening my axe." Basically, if you're unfamiliar with blades, a sharp blade is actually safer and obviously a lot more efficient. When you work with a dull blade, it requires more pressure, and when you strike a blade with more force and pressure, there's a greater probability of the blade slipping from the intended point of contact and redirecting that force to unintended targets such as yourself. So it's important that you sharpen the blade before you get to work. And in this analogy, it's important for us to make sure that we're pouring our time and resources into the development of ourselves before we get lost in the effort of trying to pour our time and resources into other people. I told you previously how important it is to protect your time because people will take advantage of you and try to use you for their own benefit. But this is different. You could put in hours and hours of work into your projects where you're working towards your goals that are going to benefit others. But at the same time, you're neglecting your own personal development. And that can eventually hurt you because either you burn out, because you're never refilling the tank, or because you run out of material or skill to provide those that you're trying to service. So humans are not one-dimensional beings, and our health isn't just measured by our blood pressure. As a person, we have different needs, and the extent to which we fulfill these needs is going to determine how healthy we are. If we're completely lacking in fulfilling those needs, then we'll be sick. If we meet those needs, we'll be some degree of healthy. But what we really want is to be thriving. Unfortunately, many people are imbalanced. This is in part because there are many different needs, and then in part because our society today is filled with distractions and detractors from what makes us healthy. So your needs are going to come in many different forms. First and foremost is at a physical level. You have to make sure that you're doing what you need to keep yourself healthy. Now, this takes 3 major different forms. The first is what you eat. The second is exercise, and the third is your sleep. I bring this up because as you start working on projects to benefit other people, you're going to put in a lot of time and energy. And when you're working to accomplish something, it always takes longer than you expect. So you think you need 2 hours to write a script or sections of the book. Then for whatever reason, you're struggling with ideas, you have technology issues, internet goes down, the task takes longer than expected. Now that 2-hour time slot starts consuming your entire day. And you had thought before that you were going to do all of these positive things for yourself. You were going to run a mile, you were going to work out, you were going to eat healthy and get to bed early, but due to you getting bogged down and working on your project that is meant to benefit others, you're now 6 hours deep in a 2-hour task. You skipped your meal, so now you're snacking on junk food, and you've missed your workout, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and you should be getting to bed, but you've got so much more to work on to feel like your day wasn't a complete waste. So you're staying up late, and you start this downward spiral because you're so focused on giving that you forgot that you still need to take. So this is just an example of how you can let your time unravel. But the real problem is not that you didn't get your work done on time, it's that you're putting the service of others ahead of the maintenance of yourself. And so just from a health perspective, sometimes the projects that you're working on, be it a business or work or an online platform, videos for education or motivational purposes, might all be positive things. But if you continue to prioritize these projects over your own physical well-being, at some point, you're going to find yourself in an unhealthy situation that's actually going to affect your ability to continue working towards these goals. First and foremost, because you're going to be sick more often, because you're not taking care of yourself. If you're not eating healthy and you're not getting sufficient sleep, your work is going to stop because you're going to be in bed with the flu or something worse. Second is that you're not going to be in a good physical condition, which is going to lower your self-esteem. People can talk body positivity all the way to the grave, but the reality is, when you look good, you typically feel good. And when you keep seeing yourself in the mirror with rolls and creases, and you keep saying for the next 6 months, I'm going to work out today, or this is the week I'm going to get back at it, that's going to have a negative effect on your morale, which is going to have a negative effect on your productivity. And it's not just your physical health that is at stake. You also have your spiritual health. If you're not taking the time out of your day to reflect on your purpose, to reflect on your relationship with God, to practice your spiritual practices in a meaningful way, your spirituality, which for most people governs their moral conduct, is going to slip. Now, if you don't believe in God, that's another issue altogether. But for those of you who do, you know full well that spirituality is like a muscle that requires physical exercise in order to be strengthened. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. The less you practice it, the weaker it gets. And if you're not taking the time to develop your spiritual self, then you're going to be a complete mess when trying to deliver some sort of benefit to those outside of yourself. Because the world is tricky out there, and it's going to throw all sorts of different trials your way. And if you're not spiritually grounded in a way that holds you to a specific moral code of conduct, you're going to find yourself in a war without a weapon when things don't go your way, when it seems like nothing is working, when thoughts of this never working enter your mind, when things do go your way, when success hits, when notoriety hits, when haters realize you exist, when fake friends and supporters surround you, or when you fail and when you falter and the fair weather friends disappear again, when you get a lot of money, or when you lose it all. For someone who comes from a background where spirituality is important to them, it is extremely important that you are consistent in your spiritual practices so that you can develop those spiritual muscles so that when those trials come, you're able to face them with a fighting chance. This isn't just about making sure you take care of yourself before you take care of others. You have to understand that you are trying to be a benefit in the world to others. And you have to understand that in order to do that, you are going to have something to offer. And although we have experience that provides us perspective, you're most likely going to need more than just that with whatever it is that you're trying to deliver. We live in a society where the vast majority of people out there who are trying to produce anything for others lack sincerity, and they also lack substance. If you're just trying to rise to fame for the sake of fame and everything that comes with it, you're wasting your time, because that's going to be a flashy but empty, unfulfilled life. If you want something of more substance, then you're going to want to be in the service of others and not just the service of yourself. But in order to serve, you have to have something to deliver. And in order to deliver something, you need to first have it, which is going to require you to go and attain and cultivate it. Obviously, no one is going to follow a fitness plan from someone who is overweight and sitting on the couch. So if you're trying to motivate others to be athletic and strong and flexible and overall healthy, then obviously you need to possess those characteristics. But it's not that you just have to have these things. It's that you're consistently in the pursuit of developing them further. First and foremost, because you can't give what you don't have, but also because the pursuit of these goals is going to constantly keep you in touch with those you're trying to inspire, because you're still going through the struggles that they go through. And you're going to be able to continue to draw from those experiences on a day-to-day basis. Whether it's the desire to sleep in, the desire to skip a day, the desire to have dessert, or battling injury, or hitting a plateau, or any of the other trials that people face in pursuit of physical achievements. The same can be said for any intellectual pursuit. You want to teach people something, you have a skill or you have knowledge that you think you can benefit people from, but the extent to which you can give someone that skill is going to be dependent upon your proficiency with it. So if you're a novice at something, sure, you can train an absolute beginner, but only so far as you've mastered that skill yourself. Your ability to teach someone to a higher level will require you to have an even higher level. And any master of any art or skill will always tell you that there's always something to learn. So there's never an end to your own training of that skill, because there's never an arrival moment of, I know it all. Also, if it's something that you want to teach others, it's safe to assume that it's something that you have a passion for. And if there's something that you have a passion for and you spend all of your time teaching and giving to others, that can quickly turn into a situation where you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to practice that skill at a level that you need, which then robs you of the joy that you experience through that effort, which is what most likely gave you the desire to share that thing in the first place. If you do that and you spend all of your time giving to others, not only are you going to be less sharp in that skill, but you're going to miss out on the benefit that the practice of that art or craft has on your soul. Likewise, you could be trying to impart knowledge on people of a certain subject, and the more you learn about anything, the more you learn you have to learn. It's rare to never that there is any subject where you close a book and say, that's all there is to know about that, especially living in an ever-changing world. So you can teach and teach and teach, but just like the skills you want to share, the desire to teach the subjects you want to teach is most likely there because of your own love to study those subjects. So likewise, it's important that you allow yourself the time to continue your studies and not get caught up in giving all of your energy to your students. The same can be said for giving your time to a specific community. Sometimes the gift that you have to give is just your physical presence. The problem is that it's easy to give all of your time to others, but forgetting to give time to yourself. Not only that, but there are family members like your children who also deserve time, and you deserve time with them. But as I said before, it's not just about losing all your time because you're giving it to other people. It's also extremely important that you sharpen your axe. And your axe in this analogy is many things. It could be your skill, could be your knowledge, it could be your spiritual state, could be your physical health. In fact, it's all of those things. This is because if you're going to go out into the world, you need the sharpest version of yourself. You need the sharpest version of your spirituality, because the world is going to throw all sorts of trials at you. And so you need to put time into developing your spirituality. You need to put time into prayer. You need to put time into fasting. You need to put time into reflection and gratitude, in conversating with God, and in doing righteous acts, all of which will cultivate the character of the person who is capable of fighting the battles that you have ahead of you. You need to sharpen your axe physically, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything at all. Especially if you're trying to motivate others in physical endeavors, you have to be in peak physical condition. You have to be the example that you want to bring out in other people. You need to sharpen your axe intellectually, because this world is a maze that requires intelligence to navigate. And if you're trying to educate people, you need to master the subject that you're trying to teach, and that will require an enormous amount of study. It's one thing to learn a subject, it's something else altogether to be able to teach a subject so that someone can understand it, and so that you can answer any questions that the subject may bring up. A human being is not one-dimensional, and we need to try to be complete human beings as we go forward in our pursuit of our goals. It's extremely important that we put in the effort to cultivate ourselves before we pour all of our effort into cultivating anything that may be of benefit to others. In fact, you should put in at least twice the amount of time into yourself that you're going to be putting in to benefiting others. If you're going to spend 2 hours teaching others, you need to be putting in at least 4 hours studying for yourself. If you're putting in an hour into an organization volunteering, you need to be putting in at least 2 hours towards yourself and your family. Too many people burn out because they get caught up in just giving and they never take. And you can't fill up someone else's cup when yours is empty. On top of this, what often happens is you find that people who spend all of their time trying to give to others run out of things to give. This is why you see so many social media personalities just copying each other. They have nothing to offer except another Kobe Bryant quote. Their tank is so empty, they're copying people quoting other people. They scramble each day just trying to figure out which gimmick or clickbait topic they can produce because they've run out of things to say. And this has ultimately happened either because they had nothing to offer to begin with, or at some point they stopped taking time to develop themselves. They let their acts get dull, and in order to compensate, they fake it. We don't need another fake. We need you. And we need you to draw inspiration from your own experiences, from your own studies, from your own training, from your own life. And the more you develop in all of these areas, the more you're going to be able to contribute, not only from the skills and knowledge and spiritual development that you've gained, but through the lessons learned through the trials, gaining all of these skills and attributes. So although eventually we want you to work to benefit as many people as possible with those gifts that you have, it's important to remember that however many days, hours, and years you plan to put towards that effort, don't forget to spend multiples of that sharpening your own axe.